Good day, podcast community and my community of high strivers. We have a special guest on our podcast today. We spend time together every week. And so I asked Mark if he would come on our show to really give our community an idea of what's high performance coaching. You hear the word, you know what it might mean, but I wanted Mark to come on because he's my coach. And I want him to really talk with our community as we're having a conversation on our podcast. So Mark, tell our community who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Absolutely, Pete. Thank you. It's an honor to be back on the High Performance Coaching Podcast with you and to see you again.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Mark Matthews. At the core, I serve anybody who's ready to step into their next level and have their greatest level of impact. And I'll unpack that for you based on, kind of why I started this journey.
Mm-hmm.
My journey starts really young, Pete. And to be honest with you, I know it's deep. It's the truth. My journey starts when I was 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 9 years old, I watched my mom, the most important person in my life, the person who loved me so unconditionally, so beautifully that I will never feel like I'm unworthy of love because of how well she loved me. And I lost her at 9 years old. And when I watched my mom go, I had what a lot of people experience, I know you have experienced, as mortality motivation. I know I've heard from your story, you received that from a stroke. For me, it was from watching what happened to my mom. And the craziest thing is, Pete, and I'll just drop in, what is high performance coaching? High performance coaching is a process. It's an experience that we co-create together that activates you into the greatest level of who you already are. And it raises your ambition to go for not just good, not just comfortable, go for an impact that makes this life well beyond worth it, that makes it so unbelievable that we get to have the impact on other people like my mom did as a high performance mother to me. And so how do we do that? It's by creating a connection that's so strong that you can ask questions that most of the time they would feel offensive.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that question is, what are you doing? It's like, sometimes that's offensive, Pete. You will get someone on the wrong day. Say, what are you up to? It feels like they're attacking you. What do you mean, what am I up to? Right? Like, because when someone enters this space, they're in their head. As a coach, your job is to pull them out of their head and put them into their heart.
Yeah.
And I got asked the question, how's the worst thing that ever happened to you the best thing that ever happened to you? And when I answered that honestly, and I thought about it, I thought about losing my mom, I realized that it really did give me a gift. And I really believe that. That's why I love this shirt, Honor the Struggle. It's one of my favorite ways to kind of snap into high performance, because I really believe that struggle gives you a gift if you're willing to see it, feel it, experience it, internalize it, and turn it into power.
Yeah.
And that's why I do what I do. Now I've had the blessing. My mom would be so proud, Pete. I have had the blessing of this year I finished my PhD in behavioral psychology with a focus on how we make sense of who we are and how that affects our ability to impact the world and influence others.
Right.
So I get to have this academic training. I love it because my mom made me love learning. She would play games with me, read to me. I loved learning. So I used that to learn everything that we could possibly learn, to get the distinctions about what is it that sometimes we have thoughts or beliefs in our life that they're just not quite where they need to be to serve us. They're holding us back. And if you can get the distinction and understand how to upgrade those beliefs, upgrade those thoughts, but then upgrade who you are, you can radically change your life in a day. You can change the direction. In a year, then you could take it unbelievable places. And so I'm finishing a PhD in psychology because I want to do this at the highest level. My goal is to carry on the torch from the greatest people who have affected change in the world, from the Jim Rohns to the Tony Robbins to the Brendan Burchards to the Oprahs, whoever it is. My goal is to carry that torch for everyone that I serve, hold it up with them, I'm not trying to make it a competition. I think there is plenty of room for so many people who want to have an impact. And so every time, this, every time I step into a session with you, it's like I am with the president of the United States or the top tier Olympic athlete. You are that person to me, Pete. And that's the difference. That's why I do this, because in this space, you get the opportunity to treat people you get people who are signed up to be treated like someone who is achieving at their highest potential and experiencing at the highest quality of life. And when you do that, the secret is that you get to witness the most beautiful parts of humanity emerge. You get to see it all. That's why I do this, Pete.
Well, I know I'll take our viewers back to when I first met you. I was going through certification, and you had going through recertification because you're a constant learner. And I was in, I don't know, I think either two, I think it was 3 sessions where we were role playing. So as soon as I met you, I said, I've got to have this guy as my coach. And I was already committed to another high performance coach, but I called him up and I said, hey, if I were to request and maybe get on the schedule of somebody else, could I do that? And they go, it's up to you. So, I was so excited because I think the energy level that you bring to anything is off the chain. And now I understand why, but I just met you a couple times, and it's kind of like when you see and you hear and you feel energy, it's everything, because we have to show up with that. My question is, like, when you mention personal development, what does that mean to a person that might read a book or listen to a tape? Give our audience an idea of what that means to you. Like, what's your life look like as you're pouring in and embracing that concept of personal development?
I absolutely love that, Pete, because to me, personal development is taking ownership of your own growth journey.
Mm-hmm.
We all are going to grow. We're all going to expand. And the crazy thing is if we leave that up to randomness, so is who we become. I love my mom, but there's also a reason I lost her when I was 9 years old. Prior to having me, she spent most of her life completely unintentional. And her, my father, and most of my family, they went down paths that were not good for them. Substance abuse, relationships that they felt like were what they had to settle for,
Mm-hmm.
what they felt like they deserved. And personal development is, first of all, the most important thing. I think it's about 2 types of wins every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first type of win comes from the books. It comes from the dialogue, the conversations. I think it's actually the hardest type of win, and that's a win of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
A win of awareness is when you genuinely learn something that is true about yourself. And that's I wish people understood. It's so hard to do, Pete, because awareness wins usually feel like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
The first part of an awareness win is a realization of a gap or a realization of something that is within you that you'd like to change. And the people who are great at this, they see that and they're like, oh, great. There's something else I can do. I can evolve. But for a lot of people, when they're starting out, it's really hard to do that. And those books, every one of them, I love them. I read 10 pages a day minimum of a personal development book. Now, I also read academic journals. I'm a researcher. I produce academic research. I've got 2 papers submitted right now that are on their way. So I read that. But the personal development books are usually, the great ones, are a collection of somebody who has went out and really learned about the patterns that people are in. And then they can share them in stories that allow someone else to be able to see their own patterns. They create the opening for you to have an insight. And I think personal development is you start seeing the beauty in every single one of those little insights, and you never know which one's going to be the biggest one. It could be, for some people, the insight is a change in their habits, their diet or their sleep, or just the way they talk or listen. And that could change their life radically.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, it's realization of something they're chasing, a goal, has been miscalibrated for too long. And that's where they're going. And so for me, it's a practice. I do programs that I always make sure I'm cultivating awareness. I have multiple coaches in my life. I've used therapy in my life. Anything that can help me get a little bit more awareness, I do that. And I love that. You don't approach it like, oh, I'm doing this awareness crap. No, I love it. It's part of my day. It's enjoyable. And I get to see my growth and development, and lots of people witness it.
So let's tell our viewers, because, at age 9, I'm sure you weren't reading personal development books and digesting it, but you understood the value of it at an early age because of your relationship with your mom. When did that kind of light bulb go off in your career that you pursued your PhD, you're a certified high performance coach? Did it come in your 20s, before then? Give us an idea, not only when, but how did that light bulb go off? What was that process like?
Yeah, I remember my first coaching client. 100%. In my mind, in psychology, Pete, we learn that everybody differs in what we call openness to experience. It's this fundamental personality trait.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll give me a second just to do a little bit of science here, I think it's really important.
Yeah, do.
Our brains perceive boundaries differently. So some people will see very rigid boundaries between different things. They'll say, this is high performance coaching. This is therapy. This is talking to a friend. And that's great because you create distinctions, and that allows you to step in, think differently, behave differently in each role you're playing. Some of us, we integrate everything together. It's a giant abstract art piece that all comes together. And that's how I am. I see it all as coming together. And so when you asked me, what was your first coaching client? My first coaching client was my best friend when my mom passed away. In 4th grade, he picked up a cigarette. And my mom passed away from a chronic lung disease. So as a little 4th grader, my goal was, how do I help Scott not smoke? And that was his goal. He didn't want to, but he had a friend who was pressuring him. And so we tried everything, Pete. And it turns out, Pete, I learned a lot about coaching since 4th grade. One of them is you don't punch your client in the face. As a 4th grader, I thought, hey, nothing's working. Hey, bam, quit smoking. We did it. No, that does not work, Pete. And that is not high performance coaching. That's kiddie coaching. But then as I kept going through, I have always had somebody who I had as a coach, as a mentor, as someone who was passing this along to me. Coaching at the highest level is really an advanced skill set that allows mentorship and a passing on of this practice. It's kind of like a martial art where you're training in personal development, and a coach helps you continue to do that. And you get helped by helping people. And so I did that. And then as I got into high school, I found this book called The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. And I read the book, and I did the book because at that time I just lost my dad. And so now I really had understood, okay, everybody's gone. It's not everybody, but that was what my mindset was. Everybody's gone. I got to do something different. And I found this book, The Purpose-Driven Life, and I started doing it. How can I do everything with purpose? So when I go into college, everything has always been about helping people grow, helping people become people who make the world a better place. And I have no judgment on what that is. I really believe if people activate themselves to their highest level of being, they will do good. I watch it. They will care about the people they love. They will not hurt people. People who are truly alive and they're aligned as a high performer, they don't hurt people. They really love to help people. And since I believe that and I see that over and over again, through college as I was studying psychology, everything was about how do I do that? And then finally, when I was in college, I picked up the Motivation Manifesto, a book by Brendon Burchard. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast, if you're hearing this and you're like, what is this guy he's talking so much about? Thing is, this is you. I want to hear this about you. As a high performance coach, these stories matter. And all of our collective stories are where we activate. Yeah. And so when I pick that book up, the Motivation Manifesto, and for the first time I read the first line of that book, it's why, having been endowed with the heart of a lion, do we decide to live like mice. And I read that, and it didn't feel like I need to be ultra powerful. It didn't feel like I got to rule the world. It felt like I can serve at such a higher level when I read that book. And there's a higher level than just contributing to knowledge. There is something else that can work with this. And so I decided from that moment on, I started speaking. I've been speaking since I was probably 19. I started going and doing trainings, facilitating anything I could get my hands on to help people. And I became a certified high performance coach because as I used Brennan's framework, I created a whole habit of using his stuff every single day. I use the high performance planner every single day. I've built unbelievable experiences with that kind of stuff. And I was like, at minimum, if I help my clients use this framework, this process, this coaching, which I'm going to my high performance coaching after this, if they just go through this process, anybody goes through this process and they do it honestly,
wow. Yeah.
It's actually unbelievable to see, having done this with people who are artists who are struggling and have very little money. And I just did it to see what it would do for them, all the way to multiple, 7-figure earning C-suite people, and see how the same process works, because personal development's not complicated. It's really not. It's just this process. It's the will. It's the desire to show up, and then a great process that facilitates it. And we have the pleasure of having access to that because, we went and got trained on it.
Yeah.
And it's great.
And I'm a journaling kind of guy. And when I got his journal, the questions, the framework, it's like, and I know he's been doing it for 20 plus years. It's the accumulation of all the ways to really get that top level performance out of people. And it's not like any other planner I've ever seen on the planet. And it really does get more out of your day, because no matter what, we each get 24 hours. Nobody gets more. And that's just the way it is. But how do we use those 24? What does the life look like of Mark Matthews? Like, give us an idea of a broad stroke of a typical day.
Typical day. So first of all, I love variety. So a typical day, it's either going to be a writing morning or a creation morning. On any given day, I could be traveling. Last year, by the way, when I first built this business, I built it on the road. I was traveling to all 50 United States. I built this out of a Starbucks because I traveled all 50 states. And the truth is that's the kind of life I live. I don't live a life of, first of all, I'm not here for a lifestyle business. Some coaches are. I'm not here for that. Like, I never signed up to say I want a nice lifestyle and that's all I want. I want impact. I can help people create a great lifestyle. That's awesome. It's a lot easier than the impact, actually. The big impact is a lot more, it takes your whole heart and soul a lot of the time.
Yeah.
When you give it. So my days, I wake up every morning. I have a routine that gets me going. I have a routine that activates me into the right energy. And that is fundamental, because whatever state you're in is how your brain sees the world. You can control that state. You can't control it like it's a button, but you can influence it so readily that you get mastery of it. So you can go all the way up here and you can be ready to go, and you can go into performance edge at moment's notice, no matter how tired you are. And you can sit for 8 hours a day, complete blissful peace, and bring it in. And so I prime that because I condition my ability to have emotional range in the morning. That involves gratitude. It involves peaceful breathing. And it also involves visualization on what I'm going to make happen in the material world today. I lock it in here, make it happen here. From there, high performance planner, 10 pages. That's my morning. Wherever I'm at, I don't care if I'm traveling across the world. That's what I do. I have a 5-minute version if I have to do it real quick. And then I have a 30-minute version that I do every single day if I don't have to do it quick. And then we're serving, man. We're getting out. Maybe we have breakfast either now or later. But then we're going out and we're either writing, where I'm deeply immersing myself in producing knowledge and continuing that process, or I'm creating something to serve my clients or to level them up, or I'm serving. I'm with someone or I'm on a site. I get to work with organizations. I'm in the organization some days. Some days I'm with one-on-one clients. But I get this variety and I get to step into those different, kind of opportunities.
Yeah.
And then there's my calls. I have a training call almost every single day. People who practice their sports, they don't go to practice once a week. I've never heard Kobe say, go to practice once a week.
Hey, not going to be a champion just
Oh,
being unintentional and doing it every once in a while.
no. So that's what I do. And one thing I want to really nail, one of the things that I make a very important part of my life, because you might hear this, you might think, well, this guy sounds crazy. Is he a workaholic? Does he work like crazy? And that's a perception I get sometimes. I also have so many deep social connections in my life. Well, where was I at last night? Last night I was at a celebration of life for someone who in my life as a child was like a little sister to me. And my evening was going into that space and leveraging high performance. That is a very important moment in her life. And I have the privilege of being a very important role model in her life.
Yeah.
And so that night was I show up, I listen and I learn, which is what coaches do well. And then in that space with her, I create the space for her to express herself. And guess what, Pete? I also did a little challenge. She created a poem. It was her grandpa who passed away. She had created a poem and people had left. Half the people had left and she forgot to do it. She was going to do it. And everybody's like, oh no. And I said, hey, I'd love if you did it right now. And I sat down and I looked at the microphone and she looked at me. And then she went and got her phone to get the poem. She went up and did the poem. And when she got up and read that poem, Pete, that's why I don't see a difference. I got to watch her honor her grandfather and have this connection to this man that mattered to her. And I got to be a witness of that. And because I'm a high performer, that was 4.5 hours into this celebration. Most people are tired. They're gone by this point.
Mhm.
I'm wide awake. I'm right there. I'm 100% with her. I'm holding this girl in my space for 4.5 hours, wherever she goes, because I know she needs me most here. She's who I serve today. When I wrote someone I can serve today in my high performance planner, it was her.
Yeah.
That's what I did. And that right there, that to me is the life that is what I love to do the most. So every single week has moments like that in it.
Wow. I want you to give us a little bit more about, I heard from Tony Robbins, this was about 25 years ago, the quality of our life is the quality of our relationships. So for our viewers out there that may not have heard that term or know how to embrace it and apply it to their life, what does that mean to you?
I agree 100%. And the reason I agree with that, Pete, the more that I've done this work, the more that I realize that if we allow ourselves to, there's no barrier between us. We create the barriers between us. We create the reasons why we're different.
Right.
You have a red shirt, I have a gray hoodie. We both have hearts and we love to serve and we love our families deeply. That's part of my coaching philosophy. My coaching philosophy comes from actually a therapeutic philosophy of loving your client, honoring your client. And that's how I treat people. The quality of my life is unbelievable because so many people loved me incredibly deeply. So I love them. But the truth is, and I learned this, Pete. I mentioned I traveled all 50 states. What I didn't mention is I spent every night I stayed with someone across the US. I stayed in 125 homes across the US. I just pop into your house and stay with you. It was amazing. And when you do that, and my goal was to listen and learn and love. And as I did that, people from all walks of life, I learned the most important lesson. In society right now, we keep getting told that you got to love yourself before you can love others. That's absolutely not true. What is true is you have to care for yourself. You have to prepare yourself. You have to serve yourself. You have to honor yourself. But to love yourself, love others because you're going to see that connection. When you love others, that is the best form of self-love you can ever give, is to learn how to love other people. Yep. And so that's what I think Tony was saying. By the way, big fan of Tony. I use his stuff. I've used his coaches. I've gone to Date with Destiny. It's a different style of coaching. His approach. I like our style because we help the whole person expand. I like his style because it's a little bit more niche and I know when to use it. I recommend clients go there for very specific things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to a Tony event next week. And what Tony does when he talks about that, if you ever meet that man, there's no shutting him off. There's no Tony on stage, Tony in person. Same with Brendan. There's no Brendan on stage, Brendan in person. If you meet these guys, they're the exact same person when you meet them. There's no surprise. And that's how they live their life. That's why they're at the highest level of that service.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. And so if you isolate yourself and don't serve at your highest level, the quality of your life goes down because you're not serving, you're not loving the people around you. And that affects you. And so that people, don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
If you are serving someone who is unable to receive that love, and that's all you're serving. I love Brendan's philosophy on this. If you are pouring love into someone and they can't receive it, it's not making them feel loved. Great intention, good on you, but you're not creating that loving experience. So love them, but go find other people you can love. Because when you find someone that you can pour love into and care for and have a quality relationship with, as you love them, you rise up.
Mm-hmm. What would you say as we wind down? Because I know you have a busy schedule, and we wanted to really get your views on high performance to our community. I'm gonna put up the actual outline of what you cover with me and what you cover with others. Would you mind commenting on that as I share the screen, just to give our viewers a taste of what high performance, the weekly commitment and the framework of it? Would you want to do that?
I will do. Absolutely. I can't believe we're winding down. I'm just getting started, Pete.
Yeah. You know what? Here we go. And yes, we're going to have you back on future podcasts because it's so important that people understand, because coaching is just like restaurants. Not all coaching is the same. So you have to, as an individual, look at the difference of what you want to get out of something. So tell our viewers, like, as we have, impacting the 12 sessions, what is it going to entail that somebody that might be interested in our group coaching that we're going to do the 1st of August, what would you see them getting as far as a framework for coaching?
Absolutely. So first of all, I just want to say something, Pete, that I think is so powerful. Not all coaches are the same. And the most important thing is we're talking about my philosophy here. As a coach, that's not my job. I'm not telling you what to think. I want to be very clear about this. Great coaches never tell you what to think.
Mm-hmm.
They let you create your own philosophy. They facilitate that in you. They activate you so that you can create a philosophy from your highest level self. And they honor that about you. Great coaches are completely non-judgmental on that. And so what I love about this, it speaks to this group framework. The first thing you're going to experience is you're going to come into a space with two people, you and me, who have dedicated ourselves. And I don't do this with most other coaches because, Pete, I'll be honest, I think it's because of all that you've done. The reason I was so amazed when I was with you is because once I watched how deeply your heart was activated for your love of your family and the community you serve here,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I saw the truth behind there. I saw the real fire. It wasn't the let me get a coaching certification, start a business so I can make money fire. It was let me serve at my highest capacity fire.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that's how you become world class. And I want to be world class. That's why we're doing this. When they step into this, first of all, most important thing, we're going to take care of you. You're going to get in here. You're going to we're going to rock with you. We're going to create a space with you where you can unleash yourself. There's no judgment. You can activate yourself at the highest level. You can learn from others if that's how you like to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can also step up for others. You can serve others. So we're going to create a place where you can step into being a high performer. And the way we start this is we go through a process. Why do we start with what we call focal points? What is that? Oh, focal points. Whatever. It's where you focus, because you become the person. Your goal dictates who you become.
Yep.
Change your life, change your goal.
Mm-hmm.
And what you will find in this session, I never fail to see it. You will have a goal that you say you want. And by the end of the session, you're going to find a deeper goal that you really want even more.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a little bit scary sometimes, but the beauty of it is that you'll keep the other goal, but now you'll have a deeper goal that's aligned with that goal. This is unbelievable, because if you just get that alone, and then you start thinking about what you're going to do on that, now you're in momentum. Now, what do you do in these programs? You come every week. This is where you get activated at your highest level, and where you share and you reflect and you pull it all back together. So you get those focal points, you start doing that. But then we go deeper into clarity. And we start figuring out, who are we really now and who are we really becoming? This is where you get those huge awareness wins. And then you build on that. These are things that build on each other. As you do any one of these sessions, you don't have to start at the beginning. You could start at influence and you could work a different way. It's kind of like a clock. And you get a different experience when you do it like that. But the beauty is when you do these sessions, you step into each one of these and you activate the most important part of these habits that every high performer is going to have. Show me one high performer who has no energy.
Yeah.
Even better, show me a high performer who doesn't have any practices around energy. Everyone will have routines. Some of them, the high achievers, their energetic routines are substances. Some of it's coffee. You'll find out some people have routines and they upgrade them. Maybe it's coffee and a workout every once in a while. It's like there's things to do, right? When we talk about each one of these sessions, you're going to have some that are going to connect with you. Some of them you're like, courage. What is courage really? Where do you need, you go through this session, you get the right questions. All of a sudden you make a huge move. All of a sudden you're like, I need to have a conversation with my best friend. We haven't talked in a long time. I got to talk about something. Maybe it's a conversation with your spouse. I have watched people in that courage session, by the way. I have watched husbands completely transform their relationship with their wife from that session. And they'll plant a seed that now I'm lucky to retain clients for a long time. So I have clients who are, we're talking over years with me. And what's amazing about that is that I get to see it. I've watched a client be on the brink of divorce, go into that session, switch a few things, have a conversation, and then serve differently. And then all of a sudden, a year later, he's in an unbelievably happy marriage. And they just needed that session. Obviously, as you look through this list, I won't go into all of them here today, but I could go into them at length, because every one of these really matters. But the one I want to highlight the most, yes, you might see productivity on the list. If you're listening to this podcast and you're this far in, first of all, congratulations. You're with us. We're glad you're here. Second, I need you to imagine right now, because this is true, a lot of high achievers believe that they are at their peak of productivity, that they have no time. That is patently false. There are so many ways to magnify your productivity, to go from you think you're at capacity, and then you're going to look back in a year from now and you're like, I was doing 10% of what I could have, and now it feels like I'm doing more, and it feels like I'm working less. That's a real thing. It's not a fake thing. It's not a sales point. That is a very real thing. Have you experienced it? I needed someone to tell me that. And it's so real. I watch people. I have a client who did the tool we give, because every one of these sessions, we don't just talk to you. Give you a strategically developed tool, an academically validated tool that helps you actually activate this even more, personalize it even more. And if you decide to take full mastery of your growth, you use the productivity tool that we offer in there, it will change your life.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I have a client who he went from complete mess. He was working in a job that he liked, but he was just so overwhelmed. 1-page productivity planner. Bam. A year later, he told me, this is the most important tool that I've gotten all year. All year. He was like, this saved my life, is what he said. And I was like, geez. I was like, that's a lot. But he's like, it saved my life, because they really work. We have them built in our high performance planner. which is awesome.
Yeah.
And what's even really cool here, I'll just highlight, one of them here. I love doing the persuasion mastery because my PhD advisor is the world's leading expert in persuasion. Over 500 publications on persuasion. The number one model used in business schools, used in psychology programs, communication programs on persuasion. And I love it because persuasion isn't a dirty word. It is happening constantly. It's
Yeah.
about a truly good role model. It's about truly influencing people at the highest level. It's about recruiting people to your team so they support your goals and they feel good about supporting your goals. It lifts them to support you. And the most important one that I have to just highlight here is commitment. Your next level for any person is on the next side of a higher level of commitment. It's your level of commitment.
Yeah.
If you asked me 3 years ago about hiring a coach, that was a scary, scary thing for me to do. I was a graduate student. I hadn't yet built a business that was making good money. I didn't even try to build a business yet. And you go right to 3 years ago, I was serving at a high level, but I had a grad student mindset. When I signed my first contract with a high level coach, and I'll just say it, it was $36,000. That was my whole graduate school salary. And I looked her in the eyes and I said, I will serve at my highest level, no matter what. And I signed that thing and I went for it. And within 7 months, I had scaled my business 833%.
Wow.
Paid her off in 7 months instead of a year. And then I had a highly profitable business. But most importantly, I had stepped up my level of service. I was serving. Now I was striving. And that's where I'm at now, that I continue to serve at this unbelievable level. And it keeps going up. But it all came from commitment. There was no days. There has not been a day, Pete, where I said, maybe I don't know if this is for me. That doesn't happen and that commitment is what allows me to step up every day and serve at my highest level. These sessions, this process, to me, this is $1 million process.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're charging in the group, Pete, because you're in control of this. So I actually don't even know what we're walking them through. But I promise you, if you step into this and you're with us, we're committed to you at the highest level.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, it's so important to invest in ourselves. And, it's always been whatever dollar a person invests in himself, that's the best you could ever do. And if you take the mindset of a framework of high performance and you put that together with that investment in yourself, that'll be the best thing anybody can make. Just like you said with the planner. I've had so many planners over the years, but when I first got that planner, I couldn't believe the depth of really getting me to think and perform at a level I've never performed before. It's almost like I always say, like I love the sports analogies, and we're here at Atlanta are very sensitive to our Super Bowl loss against Tom Brady. But here's a guy when he gets in the backfield and he picks apart defenses like a hot knife through butter. He has a plan. The game is so slow because his strategy, his mindset is so superior than anybody else out there. That's why he's won so many times. But he knows when he gets there what he has to do. He has a plan. He's intentional about his strategy. He's won so many times. It's just like, next, let me do it again. Let me do it again. But you don't get there by accident. You're intentional about how you perform in that level. And his whole game slows down because he knows what he's doing. And that's what I found is my whole life has slowed down. I'm no longer busy Pete, running, just unstoppable run, just work. It's so much more strategic and slow because I know from that plan what I have to do each day. And then I just execute on my plan. But if you don't have a plan, it's like the wind's blowing. You're going to go wherever the wind takes you. So I'm going to give our viewers put a number, podcasterpkane.com. If you're interested in really taking your business to the next level and want to be a part of Mark, and who is a phenomenal coach. Let me just, before I say this, you gave me one thing 2 weeks ago, changed my whole mindset when it came to my business. One challenge, you got that paradigm shift in my mind. Now I think completely different because of what you did to really, I'm looking at myself. I don't know what I don't know. But when you are able to, help discover a different process, a different mindset, the outcome is going to be, it's going to be crazy what's going to happen. And if I didn't have you to walk with me through this, I'd be still like doing it my way. And I tell you, it doesn't work when you have somebody that really has your best interest, who's walking through a framework like we have on the screen. You better be ready for some major improvements in your life. So go to Podcaster PK or call me direct if you want to be part of. We'll put you through a strategy session. I'll put you through it so you have a sense of really what you're looking at. Because until you go through a strategy session, you're kind of like, wonder what. If you're wondering, take advantage of it. People that I've put so far, they're going, wow, what a chance to discover more about myself and more about what I'm able to really focus on and accomplish. So, Mark, I want to thank you for being our guest and really sharing with our community an awesome way that somebody can take this and run with it and have a person that will run with them at the highest level. So before we go, Mark, what would be the one thing you would want our viewers to take home from our time on the podcast?
Go, commit, and commit to whatever your goal is as if it's the most important goal of your life. That doesn't mean cutting everything else away. It means making sure that you are building the best version of yourself. And as you go towards that goal, it's a love affair. Do not settle for getting through ever again. Any person that I've ever met who allows themselves to settle for getting through, they end up miserable. And by the way, you want to talk about PhD students, what I've witnessed. There's a huge difference between PhD students, people in the coaching community. The PhD students know so much. We learn so much.
Yeah.
But there's so much misery. They're not alive. Some of them are, but the ones who are alive, they have another community. That's been the most heartbreaking thing. You have to commit to a goal. I don't care what it is. If it's filling out your planner, if it's that 10 pages, commit to every goal of your day, every task of your day, everything that you're doing. Give it full presence. Slow that time down. Like you said, Pete, give it your full presence. Because if you stack even 5 moments of deep presence throughout your day, your day is going to become so different. And as your day becomes different and you see what life can be, you're going to start loving those parts of life more. And then you're going to have to become a high performer. Because once you experience it, you have to make it a way of life. You can't not make it a way of life because it's too painful to go back to getting through. And once you get that, then you want to give it to others and you'll watch your life radically transform. So definitely, we're doing them for free, Pete. The strategy session, Pete, it's a free strategy session. And by the way, when you step in there, the only thing that's going to matter is I have one rule for when I do a strategy session. We're here to serve. Mm-hmm. You might want to go all in on a program. That's fine. But to start, see what it is. Evaluate. Get some awareness wins. We'll get some too. But if it's for free, that's awesome. I mean, I charge for mine. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. I'm glad that we're able to do that. So definitely take advantage of it. Worst case scenario, you're going to hang out with people who love to grow with you and who are going to honor your story.
Yes. Mark, we want to thank you from Atlanta to Columbus, Ohio. We're Buckeye Nation and we have Atlanta Nation. So thanks so much for being our guest and sharing your thoughts and really feeding, pouring into my community, that we have a wonderful community of givers and encouragers and high achievers. And we want to help them to be able to get to that next level in their level of their journey. So thank you, Mark. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Pete.